We welcome you to Glass Academy Webinars 2022-23. The theme for this year is Ideas in Architecture, where I stands for innovation, D stands for design thinking, E for emerging trends, A for around the world, S for sensibility. And today we have with us architect Samruddhi Chaphale. Samruddhi is an architect, a teacher, a speed skater, an artist, and a storyteller. She is the proprietor and principal architect at Sam's Drafting Board in Nagpur, India, wherein her design work ranges from commercial, hospitality, residential and housing, education, industrial and non-profit sectors, and is spread in different parts of the country. She is also the curator and tutor at SDB Design Workshops, where she shares her professional experience on conceptual visualization with students through talks, project visits, and Q+A. Through her design practice, Samruddhi wants to advocate works of social change. And with this in mind, she has recently started Levelers Foundation as its founder and director with a bunch of co-believers. As an Indian non-for-profit association and architects group that focuses on building architecture and design better accessible and impactful in the development sector. Welcome, Samruddhi. We are delighted to have you here with us and we are looking forward to your presentation. Let's hear from you on design as around environment. Over to you, architect Samruddhi.
Thank you, Kanchan, for the wonderful introduction. And I take this opportunity to end my year in a very good way by sharing whatever little I know. And this topic is very close to me, design around environment, because I'm trying to work on any topic, whether it's architecture, interior or master planning, any domain for it be. I try to keep my design very contextual driven. So when we were discussing this topic, I was very happy to go ahead with it. And I think let me take you straight to the first presentation that we have. It is my recent project. One second. Yeah, is it visible? Right. So yeah, the first presentation is something that I'm going to talk about my recent project, La Selva Resort in the Pench Tiger Reserve of Madhya Pradesh. So this project has been very close to my heart. First of all, it was a COVID, the time when COVID had hit. That's the time it had accelerated and then we had to push it back. So it took almost about 2 to 3 years to complete. But yeah, the way it has turned out, I think it will really deliver on the topic design around environment. So this is the context of the site. I put it as a slide 1 just to make you understand that how much green it is. Look at those mahua trees, tall trees, and you can barely see anything in and around that. And this is in fact one of the settings where you see a little bit of shahadur stone just being placed here and there, where, if the customers want to dine outside amidst the jungle, the operations team over there would put in some loose chairs and tables, and you can also have dinner here. But what I'm trying to say is that without ornamenting the landscape too much and just using whatever waste was available, I've tried to create an atmosphere by putting hanging bamboo plants, lights and such kind of setting, that how much you need to be you need not change anything when you're dealing with design around environment. So this is one of the sit out areas and you see it is very untouched. Now, when I visited the site, it was during the summers actually. That time it was a fall season wherein a lot of leaves had given up, like shedded off. And still when I was there at the site, the context of the site was such that I could see the proportion of the site being that of a boomerang. So I'll show you in the next slide, which is the master plan slide, where you'll see one flange of the site is completely dense forest versus the other side is a farmland, and then you see forest ahead of it. So understanding the very cozy and linear proportion, it's not a very massy site, 6 acres of land, but still in a V shape or in a slightly boomerang shape, which reduces the massiness of a particular site. Say, for example, if it was a square or if it was a round or if it was a complete, 4-dimensional thing, then still it would have looked massy. But here the site was very tender, it felt very cozy, and then those tall trees. So the linearity in the vertical height of the trees or the linearity in the longevity of the site proportion made me realize that I wanted to do something which is very tucked in. So my architecture had to respond in such a way that it is overpowered by nature versus architecture overpowering the nature, which is why I thought of going for organic design. Like wherever I find a spot where there are no trees, I'm going to put the my built block. So this was the master plan wherein I was talking about it's not direct boomerang shape, but you get what I'm trying to say, where that brown color pathway, which you see, the main middle one, that separates the foresty thing on the top, and the bottom where you find a swimming pool is more of a farmland. So the placement played such an important role. All the cottages, it's a resort. So this project is a resort. So the amenities there are few amenities like the pool, reception block, of course, some utility block, restaurant, spa, and then there are some places to obviously live there, like cottages, tent, dormitory, these kind of things, right? So all the residential part, the quiet where you need privacy, are placed in the foresty zone. And then I secluded that by placing the dormitory, the kitchen, and the pool on the farm side. Also, the placement of the pool is so strategic because it is situated in a farmland, as I said, where afar you see the forest, silhouette. So I've also raised it to a height of 8 feet. Then is when you will be able to appreciate the beauty of the nature in a better way. And it was such a wonderful project in the sense that first 4 to 5 site visits I had to do only to understand where I'm standing. Because anywhere I would stop by, it would look as if I'm somewhere in the same spot because all the trees look the same. So doing that and then going for a triangulation method was just supportive. You know, the triangulation method that we generally apply to place a block was just a supportive drawing, to be honest, because even though I would take that, I had to make sure I'm standing there. And again, I would feel, okay, no, let's just twist the block a little like this, or maybe let us place it there. There, the placement is better suitable. So this way, it was a very organic or a very hands-on experience to be able to do that. And step by step, I started marking the blocks, ensuring that not a single tree gets cut. Rather, the tree would form a part of the project. You'll see in the next few slides. So this was one of the, a visual presentation why I picked up A-frame. Now, A-frame is a structural integrity which is being built mostly in the West because of the weather condition, A, and secondly, because of its very unique form. Now, unique in the sense it is a traditional form, but because it's not practiced so much well, because there are a lot of unused spaces, if you see, because of it keeps receding on the top. But then for me, see, here comes the approach. There are few people, especially today in the modular industry, when, architecture has also become a little product-based thing, where people are selling modular structures. There could be two approaches to it. One is to highlight the structure too much. And second, you are contextual driven. You want it to form a part of your site, and that's why you're designing it. So I went ahead with that approach that, okay, A is a very strong shape or a strong profile, but I am utilizing it because it will look cozier. It will fit in the context well. You can almost can't see the second cottage, the way it is placed. And of course, the palette, the material palette, the glass used, the shingles used, the color of the shingle that is being used, the wood, the interiors with the wooden cladding, make it look more tucked and make it look more nature-like. So that was the approach, and I think it has served the purpose. Once I show the final pictures, you'll have a better clarity. So I'll just flip faster. These are just regular floor plans to understand. The first block which I had marked was the restaurant block, which you see on this sheet as called as the main house. So why it is the first block? So client started with something that we want something east facing and obviously closer to the access. So the biggest block in the structure is a restaurant block, which was earlier going to be a farmhouse, but then we realized it has turned out so well. So we converted that into the restaurant block. And the reason for it was, there was this one tree which was not like the mahua trees. These are the mahua trees, by the way. Okay. But there was this one evergreen tree in the forest, which was huge. And we loved that tree so much that we wanted it to be a part of the project. So trees were a reference point, just to say. And this is a typical construction thing happening, where you see we are marking and finding out which is the patch that we get so that we don't cut any trees. And This is the tree that I'm talking about, the huge bark that you see. That is the tree which we wanted to be the part of the project, and hence the first block got marked around it. So the base structure, substructure is RCC. Also, I have ensured that there is not too much wet construction happening here, so that we save on the resources and we make it as close to and relevant to the environment aspect as possible. So because it is a bigger structure, a bigger span, we had to go for an RCC foundation and footing and columns being raised to a certain height. And yeah, this is how you see the slab getting. So there is a reason why I have raised this particular block to a certain height. It is raised at 1650 mm. One, not too much also to make it inaccessible for somebody who is not so good at walking, but B, also because I wanted to make sure that when you're standing at the deck, you only see the trees and nothing else. Like, you don't see the bark, you only see the leaves surrounding you, and that is pretty much achieved in this one. So this is how the structure kept going and going. Now in this particular picture, you can see how the steel is been stopped at the beam level. But in my design, I wanted the roof, which is also the wall component over here, the shingle bitumen sheet that I've applied, to go all the way down. So for that matter, later on, I've obviously added extensions which are lighter in weight in steel to support the profile of the form. These are certain technical details. Now here, this is a structural detail given by obviously my structural consultant, but a lot of things you need to change on site also, obviously with due permission and understanding. So what I understood was I don't need a offset from one of the sides. I mean, there's no need. Why this offsetted beam is made? Because the A-frame is an angular shape. So as it touches the horizontal plane, the size of the say the 300 mm is the pipe size, but when you'll place it, cut it horizontally, it will be larger, right? So I don't need offset on one side, and I changed it on site. So these are certain logical decisions that you need to take while you are at site. And this is the particular detail that I was talking about. I don't need to create an offsetted beam on either side. And this is one of our pictures during the first slab that happened. It is me with my intern, Palak. And these are certain technical details in terms of the roof, the entire structural part, the plate that holds it, the gusset plates and the purlins and the principal rafters. I wanted to make sure that the structure doesn't look too heavy. So, even with regards to decision at what height should the horizontal rafter come into picture, whether there is a mezzanine also, and whether it will come at the eye level, all these decisions are very important. So accordingly, the structural integrity was planned. Angle, now there are no set methods or there is no set drawing, regarding what angle should be this thing. I have referred to a few A-frames wherein the angle of the A-frame is such that it is too pokey, it is too steep. But I derived my own derivation of keeping it at 66 degrees, which gives me a very good, proportion and a very good slant to the A-frame. So this is how it looks now. You can see in background, there is a tree, what I was talking about. And it is only at this height when I've arrived is where I'm able to sort of have that deck feel, what I was talking about. Here, the deck is not constructed. In the next few slides, you will have it. So this is how the steel construction is used for the superstructure. And yeah, step by step, it is, you can see the construction is happening. These are few of the details. This is the lifestyle that goes by. I generally also carry a jute bag, but I was very particular about having a steel bottle, a jute bag, and there has to be a culture developed. So when you're going to the forest, you're almost like going to the village. So ensure that you are being a part of them versus going to a corporate sector. And I totally believe that. So since it's a steel structure, it need not be covered with brick wall everywhere. And as I said, I was trying to use as much as dry component of material as possible. So there is less use of water, there is less use of cement and all those things. So here we have cement sheets, and over which the rest of the layers of the roofing happened. Notice these slanting fixed glasses. It was very important to me because in the front elevation, in the sides elevation, because I wanted the inside outside connectivity to happen. And that could only happen if you have transparency, right? So you can actually see trees just everywhere. Yeah, so very important thing, this deck that you see in the picture, it was very important for me to again have it cantilevered. So this slanting detail that you see, in angle, you can see that ISMC 150, that detail is very important, because if I had gone for RCC strong, like again columns, then it would have made the whole structure look not floating, yet very like boastful, which I didn't wanted. I wanted this huge structure to actually get merged in the nature. And as you'll see the pictures, you'll see how these little decisions are really important. When you'll see the final pictures, you'll understand. So this is that deck that I was talking about, how we have encircled it around that tree. And you can see me standing without any armor at 160, like 1650 of height. And yeah, these are the window details. It's so a window as in fixed glass detail. The size of the glass is almost 2.4 by, like almost 8.5 by 9 to 10 feet. And to even incline it and fix it on that height at a sloped wall. Imagine you need when you're putting a huge glass on a straight wall, it is still fine, but putting it on a sloping wall was a big circus for us. And to do that, the other thing was, notice the detail in the section. All the members that are coming on top of it, after the purlin, you have the cement sheet, you have the bitumen sheet. All of those needs to fold at the corner. And in particular, I have the frame of the glass. It's in MS only. I have enlarged it and scooped it out of the main profile of the roof, because water should not seep in. So that particular joint that you see on that frame of the glass, which is in steel, is very important. If it is not properly welded, or if there is no proper silicone filling done, or that if that L detail that I'm talking about, you cannot stop the bitumen sheet or the cement sheet bang on at the joint. You have to turn it around. If you'll not do that, leakage will happen. The wooden cladding from the inside will sort of, it will spoil. So these are very important details that you need to take into account. And this is that particular picture that I was talking about, why the boxing is important. You can also notice the little balcony that I have put in the back. So this structure has a mezzanine on top, and that will be used for recreation. It could be a pool table or a cards room, or those kind of things. And I just thought there could be a nice, cute little balcony coming out, and you get to experience nature at a different perspective. So I'm trying to create these focal points here and there where you can appreciate, people go to the jungle to appreciate the jungle, and that has to be best achieved in whatever ways possible. So yeah, this is the tree. I'm highlighting the tree way too much, I think. Yeah, you can see the internal cladding and the external cladding in these two sheets. And this is how that structure, you see, such a big structure, those decisions of having cantilevered deck was so important, because you can't see anything. The supports that are holding that deck, they are not visible at all. And even though it being such a huge deck, it is almost at a height of 27 feet. You can't see the structure at all. Like this right side picture is from the inside, and that one from the outside. And this is the top view while it was getting constructed. In this only, you can see the difference between the RCC construction and the steel construction, like how delicate and how involved in nature it looks, versus this one, which is looks very massy. So, but there were some reservations. I mean, I had to do little RCC construction as well, because of the utility part and kitchen part. So the kitchen block is on the left, and the general manager's room is on the right. And then this is, now I'm taking you to the cottage. So I'm not showing you the final pictures right now. This was the construction of the restaurant, and I'll quickly take you to the rest of the blocks now. So I'm not putting too many slides with the plans and all those details, just showing you the form and how the glass is cut very differently in this particular elevation. Just to add to the little drama, this is being done. And these were some of the, just the visuals to make the client understand. But this is what the construction is about. Again, it's a steel construction. What you see, the little bit of civil work is only the toilet block. Interesting part about this is these were haphazardly placed again. I had to make sure that it's first tucked in the forest. So whether there were too many trees in that belt, I have placed it. Secondly, it has deck on the front part as well as on the back part, right next to the toilet block. So a lot of times what would happen, wherever I'm placing that block, there was a tree right where the toilet is coming, like the bathroom is coming. So I have actually flipped the internal plan to accommodate that tree. So the bathroom comes on the left, and then like the whole furniture layout, if the bed was on the left, it would go on the right. If the bathroom, vice versa. So the architect is not, I mean, there's no ego when it comes to nature. That's what I'm saying. You need to alter your design when you're dealing with nature. And yeah, mezzanine is getting fabricated, and I'm just showing step by step the structure. Notice the scale. Look at the size of the leaves and the size of the human on the right, and then the scale of this cottage. It is almost hidden. These are some of the window details. I have in the drawing you see a casement window, but I have a regular sliding window in practicality. What I've executed, this was one of the options. And you also see I have dared to have certain skylights, or you can say certain fixed glass again on the sloped portion of this. It has really added that touch. You'll again notice it in the final windows. Circulation has been very well taken care of. Like on the top you have a sliding window, in the bottom also you have a sliding window, so there's no problem with that. This is a funny picture wherein the workers have just come out from that particular fixed glass, but I thought it could mean well. Yeah, and these are some of the cottages in the middle of the construction. You can see the shingles being poured, the cement sheet, the internal wooden cladding. Look at the selection of the veneer. And yeah, pretty much we were not very sure of how to access the mezzanine because the block is cozy. In that sense, we went with numerous options of having a ladder, of having a, you know, an L-shape tip-top staircase, but then we ended up having a spiral staircase, which you see is being put here. It went very well with the circulation and the overall furniture plan. And this is again in the middle of the construction where you see the elevation getting formed, the wooden cladding from the inside. And then as you see, some light fittings and AC is also being put up. And you can, from this cottage, you can see the next one. This is, you see here in particular, this left image, you can see the fixed glass, the metalwork, and then the wood from inside. The sandwich, the section is very much clear, evident. And yeah, these are some of these then details that add to the vibe of being close to the nature. You know, these basins also are custom and tailor-made in wood and oiled it so that it doesn't spoil with water. And things like having all three sides with glass, so that even when you're in the bathroom, you enjoy the beauty of the nature. Again, as I share the final pictures, you'll get to see it. And very little details, as you see, I was trying to develop this toilet paper holder. So whatever piece of woods were left, we tried to make something out of it. So such details are very important. The finer details actually give you that end result. I'm sorry. Also, you can check the switchboards. I just saw this particularly, you know, the selection of the switchboard is also such that it is not white or it is not matte black. It has that wooden touch to it. And I also am a big fan of reclaimed furniture. You'll try, if a client says I have some secondhand furniture which is being hoarding, I love to use that. I mean, I feel it's an honor for me to use an old used furniture, and I try to make a part of my design in some way or the other. So these are some chairs which the client had, and there was some more furniture which we maintained and, you know, sort of repaired it and reused it as a part of the project. And then there are some also new furnitures that we have designed, which became a part of the project. So notice the upholstery, the checks, sort of the brown fabric gives that cabin feel to the project. These little, there's some leather also that is added to it. And these decisions are very important because it will only, if once you stick to a theme, it is very important to deviate. Little also, like I'll give you a small example. My client said, let's go for a white A-frame, you know, like externally, let's paint it white. Imagine that little decision. If I would have not stuck by my words, no, I want a dark brown, even from the exterior, like the chhajja that is there. And I want the carbon black to the shingles. These also decisions matter. Only then it will look like a holistic project. So here is the slide where you see even the light fittings, handles, all these are tailor-made in India by my craftsmen. The people I know in Muradabad who work for me have been working for years to make light fittings for me. So all of these, I had to give them sketches. You know, I also don't know what would be the size of an antler. But I think luckily, by God's grace, I have a certain sense of proportion and those kind of things. So with a lot of sketches, I've got these light fittings made in India. They are not imported from China or anywhere. So more pictures of the site. Again, see, notice this white. This is an incomplete cottage. Imagine if I would have just left it like that. How, and versus what you'll see now is a very different this thing. So this is just a top view of an incomplete cottage, and there were more cottages being developed. Now I'm taking you to the tent before I reveal the final pictures. There's a tent block. It's a tubular steel structure. Again, there's a lot of usage of glass in order to make sure that you have the inside-outside connectivity. So these are some of the blocks that are pending. I'll show you quickly, not in detail, with the shortage of time that we have. So it's a canvas structure, which is why it was important to go for tubular steel details. Otherwise, how will you hold the fabric, if there are too many joints to it? Hence the tubular. If you notice, this tent structure is not a regular tent. As you see, it has been tailor designed to suit the A-frame concept that is going on through the project. So notice this little triangular, scoops that are there, which sort of still makes it closer to what the theme is running around the whole property. So this is how it was while it was developing. Just one of the plans and elevation, just to explain, this is how it looks now. And yeah, again, making sure that it is tucked within the nature and you can barely see, that it is overpowering. So this is how finally it looks. And you get a complete view. It is surrounded by a veranda or a cute little alley, walking alley on all the 2-3 sides. So you can enjoy while you are in the balcony, or you can enjoy even indoors, because just you open the curtains and you have glass through which you can see everything around. So this is how it looks like from the inside. So we just have one tent block over there because our main component was the cottages. Yeah, so this is how it looks. You can also notice how that reclaimed cane chair I've used. All the chandelier that you are seeing in these pictures, these are all made. This is not shopped. These are all made, to be honest. So yeah, this is the picture from the dressing to the bathroom. So it is a long hall. Now coming to the swimming pool, as I was saying, it was such an important decision for me to raise it to 8 feet height. Imagine if it was at the ground level, you wouldn't be able to appreciate nature the way it is being appreciated now. And I utilized the lower part of the swimming pool into utilities such as the shower areas, the cubicles, the basins, and all those things. So this is just a layout and a section and some side photographs to show you how important context matters for you to take the decisions. Also, if you notice, all the cottages are in the forest area versus swimming pool has a backdrop of the forest, but it has a view to the farm. So, I hope you're getting to understand the drama that I hope I'm able to deliver that to you through my speech, that what I'm trying to say when these decisions matter. And this is this picture completely tells that. You see the backdrop of the forest. So the swimming pool is bang on marked at the site where the forest meets the farm, on that border, literally. So you see a little bit of foresty thing on the back. And as you see on the front, it's all farm. Notice this long ramp that is actually taking you to that height. So it is so comfortably accessible for anybody to sort of utilize it. It's well proportioned at 1:12. So you have this ramp following the deck, and then you have the pool. So this is the view that I was talking about. That if I wouldn't have raised it at this particular height, then you wouldn't have appreciated the view the way it is right now. And again, the picture of the ramp and the picture of the pool. Yeah, the picture of the pool and the sit out, and notice the greenery in the back. This is the drone shot which convinces on what I was trying to tell you. It is bang on at the border where the forest meets the farms. So that and the cottages are tucked in that foresty part. You can barely see them. There's another interesting block, which is the spa block. I wanted to mention it because there were some few trees and a very small proportion of land left. And I saw that spot while we were marking the cottages. And I was like, I told my client, ma'am, let's finalize this plot. I somehow like the orientation of tree. They are placed in a certain pentagon or hexagon pattern. And I wanted to follow that and build my design around it. So it is not an A-frame. It is just respect to the form that I got from the spot. So you see a very dramatic shape to the platform, and it helped me arrive at a unique roofing. So this is actually a side elevation. Generally, you have the higher portion. When you see this, it looks like a main elevation, but it is the side elevation. You'll get it in the next picture. So because of this roofing style, I got to develop my column in a different shape again. So these are responses to design. And again, why all of this? To make sure that all these 4-5 trees do not get cut. In fact, they form a part of the architecture. So this is the roof that I was talking about. And in this drone shot, actually, there are decks on either side, but it couldn't click the front deck. But any which way, you get the feel of the things. Had it been the roofs were not in this way, I could have not been able to appreciate this tree or that tree or either of the trees beautifully the way it is getting appreciated now. And this is how it looks. So this is actually the side elevation. The front is somewhere here, but people would generally not think it that way. So it was a little out of the box thinking. And yeah, this is a closer look of the block. And this is how it looks from the inside with tall, again, windows, oblique shaped windows. It really enhances the space very well. And I think now, yeah, with this slide, I'm showing you the final pictures of the main A-frames, which are the main component of the design. So this is a closer view of how you see the antler shield that you see as a little decor element that we have added. Again, that is made by an artisan in Nagpur. So these finer details are very important. Notice the greens, the veneers, the glass, the fabrics, the shingles, the steel, this, pipe to act like a fascia strip. I could have easily left it untouched, but having that, notice the brown. The brown is, it's a very dark brown. Again, these decisions were very important. And even the metal here, it is actually antique finished. So there are like, I got it primered and painted first in a lighter brown, and then I patched it up with a little a dark brown. So you don't notice it directly, but when you are actually there, you can notice the little antique effect. And this picture actually serves the purpose, what I'm trying to achieve. So nature is overpowering the object versus A-frame can be used in multiple ways where you are making it stand out. But my approach was to make it tucked and make it a part of the nature. And rather than me saying, now that the place is open, I'm hearing it, the feedback from the people who go there and live, that yes, it truly makes them feel the way it has been designed. So yeah, these are some of the final pictures of the cottages. This is the back side of the cottage. So I'm sitting in one of the picture. It's the rear deck. And you notice the cottage there and the cottage there, and you see the vibe that you get. So there's no front or back. I mean, there is definitely, but when you live in that site, you don't feel that you are on the back side of the deck, back side of the cottage. It is very beautiful on either sides. And this is another dimension, another photo of the same. This is the front elevation. Yeah, so these are the cottages. This is the inside of the cottage. As I was mentioning, that the reclaimed chairs, wooden flooring, fabric, look at the leather being used, the checks being used, the rug that is being used here, the reclaimed chest that has been used as a center table. All these things are very important. And then this is the overall planning. So all the furnitures are along the sloped wall. So, and made sure that, wherever you're sitting, so that portion stays on the corner. Because as you sit, so the structure is receding, right? So when you're making sections and elevations, you need to keep into account that where you're sitting, so that portion goes on the corner, so that least of the least space is unused. All my switchboards are also at a slant. Yeah, so this is it. And this is a view on the other side, the front side. The staircase takes you to the mezzanine. This is the loft on the top. This is my favorite part. Whenever I've gone and stayed there, I've told my family, you go be downstairs. I want to go upstairs. This is, I think I made it for myself only. Sometimes I feel when it comes to the part of this mezzanine. So yeah, this is how and again, notice the sliding window. It was so important to act because due to stack effect, hot air rises up. So you need a vent on the top as well. So we've given it here. And that little oblique slanting fixed glass on the right adds the right amount of light in. These are the bathrooms. So as I said, I wanted to have that nature view coming in even when you enjoy a bath, and which is why this sort of setup was made. And obviously privacy also needs to be ensured. That's why 2/3 of the portion is filmed, but the rest you can obviously enjoy. So these are the cottages from the top, more pictures. This is how it looks tucked in within the nature. And this is the dormitory block. Again, tree was my reference point. So I found this big tree and I was like, it is a little secluded from the rest of the cottages. So this is the dormitory block. This is how it looks from the inside. And it has a cute little balcony on the top as well, because there are almost 8 to 10 people who will be accommodated here. So there is this balcony to enjoy at that height. And this is finally the restaurant block, the biggest block, which I showed you in the very beginning at the presentation. Can you see it? I mean, you can't visibly see it. And that was my victory. I was happy that my architecture is not visible at all. I'm happy with that. So also these stairs were so important. I had made almost like 4 to 5 options, one also with a ramp, because my client said that there are some old age, not specially able, but a lot of her family members are of that profile. So my treads are 18 inches versus a riser is 6 inches. So they are so comfortable that when you climb those steps, you barely feel that you have climbed, actually speaking. And as you climb those steps, this is the deck that you arrive at of the restaurant block. So that tree, what I was talking in the beginning, was so important. Imagine, like right now, you can get the whole vibe. And this is how it looks from the top. Notice that balcony, which I created, that cute little balcony. Again, it was a huge risk, because the moment you create an opening in a sloped wall, तुम्हारे सर पे कुल्हाड़ी मार लेते हो, because if the labor doesn't ensure that it is welded properly, the details are followed properly, leakage would start happening. And it has happened. I won't deny that it didn't. It took us some experiments to arrive finally, oh God, and finding the right person to be able to do that, to make a leak-proof design. Yeah, so this is the balcony, and those are the fixed glass, and you can see the material. This is that front elevation. Again, you don't see the elevation, and I'm happy. And look how floating it is looking, because I stopped the RCC right where the A-frame stopped, and the deck is in steel with the detail, that oblique detail. So you actually don't see the support in the bottom, and that's what it is. This is from the inside to the outside. And these are the interiors. Yeah. So green, and this is the porch. Porch is also designed in such a way, porch and a reception block. And yeah, so what do we take away from this? I think understanding the sensitivity of the context here, the context was the forest, and I wanted to make sure that I hold in its sensitivity, not overpower it. So those points, I think, made my design what it is today. Understanding the orientation and proportion of the site. So when I said the site was boomerang shaped, and it had part of it which was tucked in the trees, whereas the rest in the farm. So how I placed the blocks, what was the form of the blocks, all of that derived only because of the site. Had it been the site was an open farmland, completely, say, in a square proportion, I don't think I would have gone for an A-frame, because that would have been just, I wouldn't have done that. So site made me do it. Inside outside connectivity, I think I've spoken a lot about it through the presentation. Form follows fiction. So this is a thumb rule for my philosophy in my practice as Sam's drafting board, that I just don't look into the functional aspect, but I do like to add a little drama or fiction and a story rather. Forget drama, but I think a storytelling is very important in my design. And I think I've tried to fulfill that in this as well. Sustainability to me is a very broad term. I don't think, any project can be completely, like, of course there are, but very few vernacular practices do achieve that. I would say at least starting to understand and sticking to some basics, what you can best do for the site, which is leaning towards sustainability, is a good start to sustainability. So I think I've tried to do that in this. And adaptability, again, because it's forest, the workers over there. Sustainability also comes with the second aspect, that I didn't try to go for a team which is completely expert in modular furniture. This thing today, when you see modular structures being made, they are local artisans from the village nearby the forest. So we had to train. For that matter, I had to do double work in just going there maybe 2-3 times extra, despite of having a drawing in hand, to make them understand the intention behind it or why. So you need to form a culture in the site, which is the next point. And inclusivity is very important. Again, management plays a very important role in large scale projects like this, especially where there's no Wi-Fi. So throughout my 3 years which I built this project, I used to have no network there. And when I would come back to my hometown and manage the site literally on phone, like taking reports and, being connected to them like that, I think I deserve a pat on my back, it being my first resort project. to be able to deliver what you see today. It is my first resort project. So I think I'm happy the way it has turned out. And yeah, thank you. So this ends the presentation for La Silva. So this is another project very close to my heart. I call it the organic farmhouse or courtyard farmhouse. Clients have named it Vanam Jungle Home. Orange plants are very regularly placed at a certain distance. So I won't say here I have not cut any trees, sadly, because it's a square shaped plan. 2 trees were cut. So I really felt bad about it, but what to do? I mean, I could have made it a part of the veranda, but they didn't somehow want it to be infused through the, so there are some client limitations there. This is the site. I won't go into the vastu and all of that in detail with the shortage of time, but this is how it pretty much looks. It's a typical Mangalorean roofing project where surrounded by courtyard on all the 3 sides, and again use of a lot of reclaimed stuff. Notice the pathway over here. There is a gate which is directly hitting from here to the house, but to give you that essence of entering the farm, you need to create that muted tour to the farm. So we have diverged the route and made it happen. So here I like to call it sustainable in some ways again, because or close to nature, because of the usage of material. So this farm had a lot of boulders of almost 2.5 feet in length, and this big, almost 1 feet in height, big boulders within the farm. And my client said, Samruddhi, mujhe jitna mere paas saman hai. Now the client is a Parsi, and if the Parsis are holders of reclaimed wooden antiques and furniture, or jo bhi unko milenge wo save karte. They appreciate history. So not just that, but the client had a lot of these stones which were literally punched within the soil of the farm, and he said, "Mujhe ye sab use karna hai ghar ke liye." So I said, okay, let me take that challenge. So I enjoyed this project with the fact that again it was a lot of being on the site, being like a lorry baker, taking certain decisions कि okay मिस्त्री ये ना पत्थर को ऐसा chip off करके देख ले, छोटा पीस बना सकता है तो मैं उसे cladding की तरह भी use करूंगी. So I've tried to use that stone in multiple ways. And secondly, my client's city home, in his neighborhood, there was an old 100-year-old house which got demolished. Sadly, it's a pain. But so my client purchased secondhand doors and the tiles and all those things from there, and we tried to make that as part of this project. So again, people think, I also saw when the brief came to me and he told me I have these doors and windows and all that have to be used, I was happy that first of all I get to work with historic things, and secondly I'll be able to save up a lot on designing. But to be honest, no, it was really tough because those are old pieces. The height don't match. You get limitations. When you have an open setup, you can do anything that you want. But when you're fixed, you need to design according to what is available with you. So I think that is what I learned from here. Again, no ego component, but respecting what was offered to you. So I won't get into triangulation and all of those things now. Yeah, this particular point I want to mention, where the ground beam, so here the soil at 4 feet, we got a yellow soil which was not that stiff, which is why we came at a floating beam detail, whereas where the beam cannot stick to the ground, because then it will start developing shrinkages. So how do you save the elevation, because the beam will look floating? So again, that stone was being used in the form of slates to hide the gap, and also not allowing rodents and all to get into it. So this is that beam. And these are the stones that I was talking about that were available at the site. And I've tried to use that at it, like not clad it or anything, but real stones are used for the plinth. And this is a typical construction. This is the typical plan. It's a very open-ended house where you have open kitchen, open living, and the windows and doors are planned in such a way that it is well circulated and all of that. It has a floor on the top with the terrace in the front and 2 bedrooms in the back. And yeah, this is how it is pretty much coming into construction. Notice the second layer of stone now. Again, it's a stone clad wall being done till that height. So अंदर से भी stone दिखता है. Now imagine, I'll show you in the next picture. So just notice in this how the stone is being utilized in different forms. I've also used it as a cladding component for the interiors. So I think that, and these are the same stones which are this big. I have reduced it, chipped it down to those smaller pieces and used. This is one of the elevations just to show you how the design would come by. The roofing. So we also had to make sure that roof has a little bit of glass, so that because these are like 12 feet wide verandas and it will be dark then again. So skylight ke liye hum log ne transparent kavelus add kiye hai in this. Yeah, so this is how the build is. Now it looks massy, right? Because it is not finished, but the little details, the traditional details that I've applied, the antique details, don't make it look that heavy once it is complete. Notice the Y-shaped columns that are holding, the pipes that are holding the roof of the veranda. And you see the little detail where the same stone is being chipped to smaller versions, and it has been the column of the columns. It's being used for the cladding of the columns. And this is the staircase that I was talking about. Again, it's a reclaimed second-hand staircase, but it was not in this condition. Every thread was broken and kept here and there. I had to get it assembled, check if there are actual pieces, and create a staircase, metal staircase to hold it. Even the balusters were missing. Some of them got it made and then made a jigsaw puzzle out of it. Notice the tile in this second image on the right. The tile patterns are also very different because these are second-hand tiles, and whatever tile I got, I've just created patterns out of it. And these, now again, notice the clerestory band I've given on the top. That was very important because my client wanted sunlight every time of the day. So that's why I added that band. All these windows are reclaimed, but these arches weren't a part of this window. I just found those pieces again in a storeroom, and I was like, let me check the size. If it matches, I will just put it on top of it. So things like that. The image on the right, what you see, the full height window, we were earlier thinking of going for UPVC, but honestly, it saved us a lot of cost. I found some doors at the client's again place, and I was like, I'll remove use the frame for the window, so it will be like a full length window. You'll see in the next images. So these are the reclaimed 100-year-old doors. They are looking still in better conditions because almost 2 months of ghasai work has happened to make it look to this. It was painted and imagine 100 years. We only in our homes, every 5 or 6 years, we get a house painted. So imagine in 100 years, how many layers of paint or coating or whoever has used that window or door must have done that. So to scrape it all out because it was all white. Then the doors were shorter in size. The left image where you see the door, in olden days, there used to be a louver on top, right? The vent. So, and the client, everybody is too tall. So we had to make sure we remove that and we add our own extension and all of those things. Then again, DIY, rainwater. So I had gone during one of my travels in Sri Lanka and also in Goa. So Geoffrey Bawa influence and as well as Gerardi Kuna influence from Goa. I found chains that are used to collect rainwater. And I like that detail a lot during both of my travels. So I've tried to incorporate that in my project versus using PVC pipe. But when so much of rainwater is getting collected from that much of height, again, I came up with my own DIY detail. You see, notice the funnel in the bottom. So basically, these funnels were again kept in his hoardings. And I was like, okay, ye bhi kyun chodu? Let me use this also. Where to use? So just I took those funnels and just placed it below the chain. So water actually collects in logic here. And then there is a stump I have created in a little bit of brickwork and stonework. Wahan se then pani gets collected and it goes through to all the lawn. So rainwater that gets collected is spread in the garden actually. So, and these are just reused chunks of stones. We have left no stone unturned in reusing whatever was available. The broken parts of the tiles have been used with a little churi just to form a pathway in the middle of the garden. And this is a little collage of how it started and, you know, what all elements have been used. But I think I'll show you the final picture. So this is how it looks now. The pathway is made of completely waste tukdas of tiles and the little churi and a little bit of cement. And the plantation we did organically, gifting plants to each other and just planting it. Orange trees were already there, but this we over the time put it. And yeah, this is how the front elevation looks. And it's so the vocabulary of the house goes so well with the orange farm. You know, orange with the actual color of the mango. We got the tiles painted, obviously. So that little orangey red to the mango tile is also so important. So yeah, this is that rainwater detail. Those these are actually sitting on that stump that I was talking about where the rainwater gets sort of taken and then taken to the garden. So here in this picture, obviously I'm sitting, but apart from that, you see the stone used in 3 different ways. It is used as a fascia strip to hide the beam, the ground beam. It is also used as a proper stone for the plinth. It is used to create the staircase sides, and it is used as a cladding to decorate the risers. So yeah, and that has been done all throughout the house. So same stone in 2 different patterns, and this is the rear side. This is the exit from the kitchen. So I don't treat any form of a building as rear side or side elevation or front. For me, everything is very holistic when I design. And in this picture, you can see the little transparent roofing tiles. Those actually add skylight to the project. So yeah, these are just some final images. I'll just quickly run through the courtyard. And these are the interiors. Very antique and very very simple. This is that window that I was saying. These are actually doors, removed the middle portion of the wood and covered it with glass. So I saved almost 6 times the cost of the client with going in this way. And also it goes with the theme. So very simple, and these tiles again that you see, these are heritage tiles of an old bungalow. So I was very privileged. Empress Mill, rather, sorry. These tiles are from Empress Mill, from Nagpur. Again, yeah. So this is it. Some before and after, like before it looked like this, after like that. And thank you. So here I would quickly just run through. It's understanding the client's brief. He told me I want a Gavrani house. So Gavrani in Marathi is like a local village house. But eventually, as the design started developing, he said that let's go for a top floor. So it definitely not looks Gavrani or anything, but I think it stays good with the context. When DIY, spend a lot of time on the site and you'll find solutions then and there. I think I've shown you some examples with regards to rainwater harvesting, to the way how stone was used in different forms. Those were decisions that I took on site, literally. Then sustainable form of design is nothing extra but basic. So stick to that. And the concept here is a recipe of bringing everything together, all the resources which have been treasured for so many years. So thank you.
So that was a wonderful and very insightful presentation, Samruddhi.
Thank
And
you.
you've very wonderfully illustrated how to inspire the next decade with your designs. And I'm sure our viewers will also appreciate it, and they will learn a lot from your presentations. And curious to know more, I would like to take this opportunity to ask you a few short questions.
Right.
Through your works and workshops, you emphasize conceptual visualization at the beginning of the design process. In your own design process, what are some of the inspirations for the stories that you like to tell with your projects?
Okay. So honestly, my inspirations come from travel or the site when I'm present in. I am not, I think, following any particular architect or any particular style. If you look into my entire portfolio, it's qualitative versus quantitative. That's what I'm trying to live by. It's more like a lifestyle to me. I'm not there's not much of a shift between my my life and my work life. I think I'm trying to pick opportunities which resonate a lot with 2-3 components. I would say, like, I love challenges. I love if I've not done something before. And then I look into the context and the brief. So there is no particular vocabulary, if you notice. Of course, there are certain things which I don't want to do. I'm very clear about when it comes to my own style. As a personality, also, I'm not somebody who's very what do you say, shimmery, or I'm not getting the right word, but extravaganza and those kind of things don't coincide with my thinking. So that is something which I'll not do. But other than that, there's a lot of art deco, these kind of things inspire me. Green component inspires me. So yeah, if I have to name a few architects, then there definitely would be Geoffrey Bawa, as I said, and the few that I mentioned, like Laurie Baker, Charles Correa, Gerard Ikuna. So I like their philosophy as well, the way they worked, the way they gave back. So I think that inspires me more than just going to the portfolio. Like, as an overall holistic vision of how they're implying what they know, And which is why I'm also taking decisions like that, like starting up with my foundation also, as I said, the architecture foundation. My mother said, why do you want to take that step right now? And I said, just locally to be able to do. I mean, I'm already doing a part of my portfolio is also doing projects for some NGOs, which like a shelter home makeover I've done and things like that. But then during COVID, I realized that let me just try and pitch it to a few more friends of mine or community and build around it, and we can do such projects. So yeah.
So the projects that we have seen today from you, they are both closely related to the idea of coexisting with nature and optimizing the use of resources that you have on the site. And
Right,
some very thoughtful, detailed, very small decisions that end up making the impact that much stronger. How do you
right.
think that these two philosophies of coexisting with nature and optimizing the use of resources, how are
Hmm.
they going to influence and inspire the designers in the next 10 years?
Oh, totally. I mean, look at the relevant issues that we are facing today as a worldwide, starting off with COVID for per se, and look at the environment crisis that we are going through. Here you see forest fires happening. There somewhere you'll see something else happening. Recently, New York is going through a snow storm or whatever you say. So with this regards, I think people see what we are doing in the name of smart. Our ideology has been become that don't touch anything or don't do anything. Smart technology, whether it is in interiors or whether even that implies everything has become very fast. The way it is fast fashioned, I think architecture has also become fast fashioned. And that is something that I don't live by at all, per se, because again, when you said the question that how is it going to inspire the next generation and how it is going to be relevant, staying rooted, staying true to the basics, respecting nature is what will take us forward. Look at the government policies also that are going to get planned in the next, the G20 summit or all those things that are happening at the upper level. The main agenda is environment. So our industry, what we are doing is we are trying to come up with newer materials, and as in the name of trend, we tend to apply too much. See, apply sensitively, any material. Like as I mentioned, the shingles, those shingles are not like vernacular material, but I have applied it sensitively. Glass for that matter, it is not like completely harmless, I would say. But then how you apply it, why you apply it, zabardasti ka mat apply karo, is what I mean to say. So what has happened today, overdoing of things just because it has come newly in the market, is something I don't live by. So hence, keeping that notion in mind that you are close to the basics, you're close to the environment, will at least keep you rooted when you're taking those decisions of applications, of designing. And then subconsciously you develop that holistic vision. I would say I am trying to develop that okay, whatever I'm doing, how is it going to impact, not just with the brief of the client, but also as a whole. How is it now people are talking about this, for instance, project La Silva, throughout the Pench forest, to be honest. Oh, हमने ऐसा नहीं देखा यार अभी तक. And that Pench forest is flooded with resorts. Like, to be honest, one gate of it has stopped, is not allowing people to make resorts because they are not just following it. It is too much massy and it is disturbing this thing, versus ours is not like that. So that example, if I have laid, I'm happy that somewhere I'm sticking to the roots. And I think touching the basics, sticking to the root, believing in the environment and working solutions towards that. See, design is a tool, can be used for multiple ways. One is to satisfy your own self, one is to satisfy your ego, one is to fulfill the client's dream, and then the other is to work out on a solution. So solution holistic hona chahiye na. It cannot be just pertaining to okay visually or this or that. So bits and pieces of everything, if you are able to arrive like that, I think that is a good solution, and that's what the next generation should look into. Yeah.
And I think my last question is going to be about the Levelers Foundation, which you mentioned, that you
Right.
have founded with a few co-believers.
Right.
How do you work on making design accessible and more impactful through it?
Yeah, first is to have a community engagement. So it's a very young foundation. We started very recently, just a year, you can say. A lot of it went into building, and it was during the COVID times. So the team members were very distantly connected. But we ended up pulling a very good initiative called as Ground Up, wherein we reached out to a village. The village is very beautifully taken care by the Sarpanch. So not just as a case study, but we also wanted to see where we can address as architects. So we went there, we had a participatory rural engagement program wherein we sitting under the banyan tree, drawing the map of the village right there, having some master degree holders into planning also with us. We made the villagers participate with us, and when you have a one-on-one conversation with the individual who you want to offer the service to is when you'll actually understand a problem. So there were stories, what not. I mean, there were some of the villagers who were actually weeping, and my mud house, it's almost in leakage, even though it's a mud house and it acts really well during summers, but during the rains, I can barely live with my two kids, and her husband expired long back. So these kind of stories, they found hope. That's why they shared with us. We went door to door to every house. It was not, and sat with every member. It was not like having a general survey. So things like that. And as I mentioned, few of the projects that I'd done individually, whereas I collaborated with NGOs as Sam's Drafting Board and worked on shelter home makeovers and things like that. So I want to be able to do as a team through Levelers. So we are at a step to that we are hoping to receive projects where we can work for a social good. And apart from that, we have a wonderful talk series called as Get Real, where we are bringing people like you and me just talking about self-awareness of what inclined them. It could not be from just architecture domain. It could be from a different domain, but how they, through infrastructure and through spaces, how they're able to build impact in the social sector. So that is something we are doing. We're doing some research writing and dialogues, and pertaining to this vision of so it's an ambulance organization meant to do design for social good. I must say that. That's why the term Levelers,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been very, very informative and very insightful for us. And on
Thank you
behalf
so
of
much.
all of us at Glass Academy and Ethos, I'd like to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kanchan, and thank you everyone present here. Thanks a lot.